There is a book in the Bible that sounds like it was written last week, at 3 in the morning, by someone completely burned out. It stares straight at the things most religious voices tiptoe around: death, monotony, injustice, the sinking feeling that you work your whole life, build something, chase the thing you wanted, and then it just ends, and the wind erases your name. It refuses to hand you a neat, cheerful answer. It will not smile and tell you everything happens for a reason. And that brutal, unflinching honesty is exactly why it might be the most quietly comforting book in all of Scripture. And here is where almost everyone gets it wrong, from the very first line. For centuries, that line has been translated, Vanity of Vanities. All is vanity. And that translation has misled nearly everyone who ever read it, because the Hebrew word is not vanity, and it does not mean meaningless. It literally means vapor. Breath, mist, the steam off a coffee cup on a cold morning that is there for a second and then gone. The book is not telling you that your life is worthless. It is telling you that your life is smoke. And once you feel the difference between those two things, the bleakest book in the Bible turns into one of the most freeing. It is called Ecclesiastes, and it is the most honest book you will ever read. So let's start where the book starts, with that one word, because the whole thing hangs on it. The Hebrew is Hevel, and Qoheleth, the voice behind the book, repeats it 38 times. More than in any other book of the Bible, it is his hammer, his refrain, the word he keeps bringing everything back to. And its root meaning is not philosophical at all. It is physical. Hevel is a breath, a puff of air, a wisp of vapor that forms when you exhale on a winter day and dissolves before you can point at it. Now feel what that does to the famous opening line. In Hebrew, it is Hevel Havelim, literally, vapor of vapors. That construction, a word paired with its own plural, is the Hebrew way of making a superlative, the absolute most of something. The same way Holy of Holies means the holiest place, and Song of Songs means the greatest song. Vapor of vapors means the most utterly vapor-like thing imaginable. The book opens by saying, everything is breath upon breath upon breath, the most fleeting version of fleeting. And that is a very different claim from everything is meaningless. Meaningless is a verdict of worthlessness. Vapor is a description of impermanence. Qoheleth is not saying your life does not matter. He is saying you cannot grab it and hold it still. You reach out to seize your days. Your achievements, your pleasures, and your hand closes on air. Not because they are nothing, but because they will not stay. That single shift changes the entire book. This is not a nihilist telling you to give up. It is a brutally honest man telling you that everything you are chasing is smoke, and that if you build your life on grasping smoke, you will spend your whole life frustrated, which, if you are honest, you already suspected. And then there is a detail hiding in that word that should stop you cold. Hevel, vapor, breath, is not only the key word of Ecclesiastes, it is also a name. It is the Hebrew name of Abel, the second human being ever born, the younger brother in the very first family. And you know what happened to Abel? He brought his offering to God, God accepted it, and his older brother Cain, in a jealous rage, killed him in a field. Abel is the first human being ever to die, and his life was, quite literally, a breath, brief, blameless, and snuffed out before it had barely begun. So when Qoheleth reaches, again and again, for the word Hevel, he is not reaching for an abstract philosophical term. He is reaching for the name of a murdered man whose whole existence was a vapor. The key word of the most honest book in the Bible is the name of the first person ever to die. Read the book that way, and a chill runs through it. Every time Qoheleth says everything is Hevel, there is a faint echo underneath, the name of Abel lying in that field. He is not just saying life is fleeting in the abstract. He is saying every one of us is Abel. Here for a breath, gone before we are ready. That is the honesty the book refuses to soften. And it is exactly the honesty most of us are starving for, underneath all the noise we use to avoid it. But there is a second phrase, just as important, and if you miss it, you will misread the whole book. Qoheleth does not just say everything is vapor. He says everything is vapor under the sun. That phrase, under the sun, shows up around 29 times. And it is doing quiet, crucial work every single time. Under the sun means life viewed horizontally, life at ground level, life as you see it when you stand on the earth. Look around at everything between the horizons and take in the whole scene, but never look up past the sun. It is life with the ceiling closed. Life measured only by what you can see, touch, earn, and lose before you die. And here is the thing. From under the sun, Qoheleth is completely right. If this life is all there is, if there is nothing above the sun, no God, no eternity, no judgment, no story bigger than the one that ends at your grave, then yes, it is all vapor. Of course it is. You work and someone else inherits it. You get wise and you die exactly like the fool. You build something magnificent and the next generation forgets your name. Under the sun. With the ceiling closed, there is no escape from the smoke. So Qoheleth is not describing what life is in some final sense. He is describing, with devastating precision, what life looks like when you take God out of the frame. He is running the experiment the whole modern world runs. Let's see if life adds up on its own, with nothing above the sun. And he is reporting the results with more honesty than any influencer, any philosopher, any self-help book will ever give you. It doesn't add up. Not down here, not by itself. Hold on to that phrase. Because the whole resolution of the book depends on one question. What happens when someone finally looks up? But first, who is saying all this? Because it matters enormously who is delivering the report. The author calls himself Qoheleth, a Hebrew word that means something like the preacher, or the teacher, or the one who gathers an assembly. It comes from the word for a congregation, a gathered crowd. When the book was later translated into Greek, that title became Ecclesiastes, which is where we get the English name of the book. So the whole thing is framed as a wise teacher standing up to address a room, and he tells us who he is, the son of David, king in Jerusalem. Traditionally, that has been understood as Solomon, the king famous above all others for two things, unlimited wisdom and unlimited wealth. Now, I want to be honest with you here, because this is debated. Many modern scholars look at the style of the Hebrew and think the book may have been written later by someone writing in the persona of that great king. That is a real and reasonable discussion, and I am not going to pretend it is settled. But notice that it barely changes the force of the book, whether it is Solomon himself or a writer stepping into Solomon's sandals. The point is the same, and it is devastating. This is the testimony of the one person with the resources to chase everything. This is not sour grapes from someone who never got what he wanted. This is the report of a man who got all of it. Every pleasure, every possession, every accomplishment a human being could dream of, and came back to tell you what he found on the other side. That is what makes it impossible to dismiss. He is not warning you off a feast he never tasted. He ate the whole thing. And in chapter 2, he lays out the experiment in detail, and it reads like a bucket list with no budget. I built houses, he says. I planted vineyards. I made gardens and parks and filled them with fruit trees. I dug pools of water to irrigate a forest. I bought servants and owned more herds and flocks than anyone before me in Jerusalem. I piled up silver and gold and the treasure of kings. I gathered singers and every kind of music. And then the line that sums it all up. Whatever my eyes desired, I did not keep from them. I withheld my heart from no pleasure. Read that, and you realize he ran the exact experiment our entire culture is running right now. Just with a bigger budget than any of us will ever have. More stuff, more pleasure, more success, more beauty. More of everything the eyes desire. He turned the dial all the way up, further than you or I ever could. And the verdict? Then I looked on all the works that my hands had done, and behold, all was Hevel and a chasing after wind. And there was nothing to be gained under the sun. Vapor. And chasing after wind, another one of his favorite images. Because that is exactly what it feels like to grab for these things. You can run after the wind your whole life. You can even feel it rushing past you, but you will never come home with your fists full of it. And underneath it all sits the one fact he cannot get around: death. He says it plainly. The wise man dies just like the fool. He worked and gained, and he will leave every bit of it to someone who comes after him, who did nothing to earn it and might squander the whole thing. The great equalizer takes the king and the beggar to exactly the same place. Under the sun, that is, the wall, every life crashes into. And Qoheleth refuses to pretend it isn't there. Now, if the book stopped there, it would just be despair, but it doesn't. Because woven all through the darkness is a stubborn, surprising counsel that changes everything. We'll get to it in a moment. Quick word before we do. Everything in this study comes out of ours in the Hebrew text and the biblical sources. If this kind of study matters to you, consider joining as a channel member. That support is what lets us keep digging, week after week. And to those of you who already are members, thank you. You are part of everything this channel makes. Now, why this ancient book feels like it was written for you. Here is what makes Ecclesiastes the most honest book in the Bible, and the reason it lands so hard on modern ears. It names things out loud that most of us only feel in the dark. It says the days are monotonous. The sun rises and sets and rises again. The rivers run to the sea and the sea is never full. And there is nothing new under the sun. That is, the feeling of Monday, becoming Monday, becoming Monday. The treadmill that never seems to arrive anywhere. Qoheleth names it. It says life is unfair, that the righteous sometimes get what the wicked deserve, and the wicked sometimes get what the righteous deserve. And good people suffer, while cruel people prosper. Most religious books rush to explain that away. Qoheleth just lets it stand there, aching. It says even wisdom has a limit, that the more you understand, the more you grieve, and that no amount of being smart can save you from the grave. He does not flinch at any of it. He does not hand you a bumper sticker. He will not tell you that everything is fine, because he is too honest to lie to you, and that is precisely why the book is such a strange comfort. If you've ever sat in a church or scrolled past a cheerful post and thought, that is not the world I actually live in, Ecclesiastes is the friend who finally says the quiet part out loud. Yes, life under the sun really is like that. You are not crazy for feeling it. The Bible itself feels it too. But, and this is the turn everything hangs on, Qoheleth does not stop at the honesty. He is honest all the way through, until he comes out the other side into something the cheerful voices never reach. And what he finds there is not a slogan. It is a way to live. Scattered through all the vapor, like windows cut into a dark room, is one piece of advice Qoheleth keeps coming back to. And the first time you notice it, it is almost jarring against the bleakness. He says, "Go, eat your bread, drink your wine with a glad heart, enjoy the work of your hands, find satisfaction in your daily labor. Be with the person you love, wear something clean, put oil on your head, live." He says it again and again. There is nothing better for a person than to eat and drink and find enjoyment in their work. And every single time he says it, he adds the same phrase that turns it from hedonism into something holy. This is from the hand of God. It is a gift. This too, he says, is from the hand of God. Do you see what he has done? He has taken you all the way down to the bottom. Everything is vapor. You cannot keep any of it. Death takes it all. And then, from that bottom, he hands you back the ordinary day and says, this is exactly why it is precious. The problem was never bread and wine and work and love. The problem was trying to squeeze eternal, ultimate, permanent meaning out of things that were only ever meant to be gifts for today. The vapor was never supposed to be your foundation. It was supposed to be your grace. So the answer to a fleeting life is not to grasp harder. It is to unclench your fists and receive. Stop trying to make the smoke solid. Stop demanding that your job, your success, your pleasures carry a weight they were never designed to carry. And instead, take the bread in front of you today, the work in front of you today, the face across the table today, as what they actually are: small, temporary, undeserved gifts, placed in your hands by God, meant to be enjoyed and then released. The man who found that everything was vapor did not tell you to stop living. He told you to finally start. But there is still that closed ceiling. All of this, the honesty, even the joy, has been happening under the sun. And near the middle of the book, Qoheleth does something he has been building toward the whole time. He looks up. In chapter 3, right after the famous poem, "A time to be born and a time to die, a time to weep and a time to laugh," Qoheleth writes one of the most piercing sentences in the entire Bible. He says God has made everything beautiful in its time, and then he has also put eternity into the human heart. Yet no one can find out what God has done from beginning to end. Sit with that. He has put eternity in your heart. That is Qoheleth's explanation for the whole ache, for the reason nothing under the sun ever fully satisfies you. It is not because you have not found the right thing yet. It is because there is a piece of eternity buried inside you, planted by God Himself, and nothing temporary will ever fill an eternity-shaped space. You were built with a homing signal for forever. Which is exactly why forever-sized longings keep leaking out of you in the middle of an ordinary mortal life. That single line reframes everything that came before. Why does the vapor feel so frustrating? Because you were made for more than vapor. Why does death feel so wrong? So unnatural, even though it happens to everyone? Because something in you was made for a life that does not end. The restlessness is not a defect. It is a clue. The very dissatisfaction Qoheleth spent 11 chapters describing turns out to be a fingerprint. Evidence that you belong to a world above the sun, even while you are living beneath it. The ceiling was never really closed. Qoheleth just made you feel the weight of it, so that when he pointed up, you would finally look. And so the book ends not in despair, but in a resolution that only makes sense once you have walked through all the vapor to get there. At the very end, Qoheleth lays down his conclusion, the sum of everything. Fear God and keep His commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. For God will bring every deed into judgment with every secret thing, whether good or evil. There it is. Above the sun, there is a God. And that God is not indifferent. He sees, He remembers. He will bring every hidden thing into the light, which means that, under the sun, where nothing seems to add up, and the wicked seem to get away with everything, and it all dissolves into smoke, that is not the final accounting. There is a ceiling, and there is someone above it, and nothing is actually lost. The moment you put God back above the sun, the vapor stops being a reason for despair and becomes an invitation to trust. The New Testament picks up Qoheleth's exact word. By the way, James writes that your life is a mist, a vapor, that appears for a little while and then vanishes. Same image, same honesty. But the New Testament adds the direction Qoheleth was straining toward. Do not store up treasure under the sun, where moth and rust destroy it, and you cannot keep it anyway. Store it up above the sun, with the God who outlasts the vapor. Qoheleth got you to the window. The gospel opens the door, and that lands on something a lot of us are carrying quietly. If you have ever felt the exhaustion of the treadmill, work, achieve, acquire, and still wake up restless, Ecclesiastes is not going to scold you for feeling it. It is going to tell you that you are feeling something true. The dissatisfaction is not a sign that your faith is weak or that you are ungrateful. It is the eternity in your heart, refusing to be quieted by anything smaller than God. You have been trying to drink the ocean out of a teacup, and the ache you feel is simply your own soul, telling you the teacup was never going to be enough. That is not despair. That is the beginning of wisdom. So here is the two-sided gift Qoheleth hands you, and you need both sides. On one side, stop building your life on smoke. Stop demanding that your career, your relationships, your accomplishments, your pleasures deliver a permanence they were never able to give. When you ask vapor to be your foundation, it will fail you every time. And it will break your heart doing it. Loosen your grip, and on the other side, at the very same moment, receive today. The bread in front of you, the work of your hands, the people you love, who are also vapor, also here for just a breath, and therefore unspeakably precious right now. Enjoy them as gifts from the hand of God, held loosely, savored fully, released gently. That is not a lesser life. According to the wisest man who ever lived, that is the life, the only way to actually be happy under the sun. And, underneath all of it, the quiet anchor. There is a God above the sun who will not let your fleeting life dissolve into nothing. You are able, here for a breath. But you are able, held by a God who does not forget the ones the world snuffs out. The vapor rises, and it looks like it disappears. But nothing offered to him is ever actually lost. One word, repeated 38 times, not meaningless, but vapor, breath, mist. The name of Abel, the first man to die, whispering under every page. A phrase, under the sun, that quietly admits the whole bleakness only holds when you close the ceiling. A king who had everything and found it was smoke, a treadmill of days that most religion won't name, and this book names without blinking. A stubborn command to eat, drink, work, love, and receive it all as a gift, and a piece of eternity buried in your chest, aching for the God above the sun who will bring every hidden thing into the light. Ecclesiastes, the most honest book in the Bible. It refuses to lie to you about how fleeting your life is, so that it can tell you the truth about how to actually live it. If this study opened something for you, subscribe and leave a comment, even one word. Share it with someone who is tired, who feels the treadmill, who needs a book honest enough to meet them where they actually are. Pray for us as we keep digging into these texts. And may the God who put eternity in your heart teach you to hold this vapor of a life gently, to receive each ordinary day as a gift from his hand, and to store your treasure where the smoke can never reach it. God bless you.